Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney. Today's review, we're going to be looking at artificial intelligence. So I thought it would be valuable to take a look at this particular organization, and I will tell you why in a moment. I'm going to reject all the optional. So I talked a lot about cookies. If you're interested in cookies, cookie notice, cookie compliance, cookie consent management, I have plenty of videos on the channel. Take a look at those. I clicked on TrustArc because, let's reject this first. I want us to take a look at their products. If you know anything about cookie consent management platforms, TrustArc is actually one of the vendors that facilitates consent management as a platform, and it helps facilitate those preference centers. So if you watch any of my videos about cookies and I walked us through the consent management process, TrustArc actually provides that as a service to its customers. So I thought it would be valuable to look at their AI tools. Let me take a look. Okay, so we can't see that, but I'm just giving you some background about this organization because I'm pretty familiar with them. So let's talk about the AI tools. Now, the bulk of what I know about this company is limited to the fact that they provide that consent management. I actually personally have not used any of the TrustArc solutions that utilize AI. I have not. So I cannot speak to that. I am interested in whether any of the AI features exist on the preference centers and how. But let me tell you something that goes into privacy outside of these public-facing documents. There's something called technical specifications. So if you're in the security space, you're probably very familiar with these documents. And basically, they're documents that businesses will distribute to customers and prospective customers about how a product works. Now, sometimes those are publicly available. I'll tell you a good example of a company that does have the technical specifications available on the website, Adobe. Adobe has Insight. At some point, I'm planning to do a much longer video walking through what we as privacy counsel look at when providing advice, like what type of documents, and identifying them and giving insight into what maybe businesses might want to start collecting so they can understand the products they're liaising with. But Adobe is an excellent example. If you are interested in what technical specification documents look like, Adobe has plenty on their site. And the other thing I like about Adobe, I don't want to spend too much time on this, Adobe will show you historical documents. So you can actually see how the products have progressed. You can see what the product was in like 2022. You can then see it for 2024. You can see it as and when they upgrade it. They will show you what the upgrades are and you can compare. And let me tell you the value in that before we go into artificial intelligence. I talk a lot on my channel about why it's so important to update your privacy documentation. And the reason I mention Adobe and having the older technical specifications available for review by customers is, let's say you procured the tool in 2022. The privacy provisions that apply to your use of the tool are going to be the privacy provisions that were posted in 2022. If the tool has been upgraded in 2024, 2025, or 2026, then how it interacts with personal data may have changed, and you need to also relay that to your customers via the privacy notice. So as and when the products change, the notice will change if how the product processes personal data has changed too, right? Let's say, for instance, you told your customers in 2022, hey, we process all of the personal data internally related to this product. But in 2023, you decide to obtain services from a third party, and then the third party is located in India or China. That influences what you told your customers in 2022 via the notice. So you need to change that to reflect and say something like, we utilize third-party providers that we've held to certain contractual provisions so that they adhere to the data protection laws because the process has changed. Now let's get into AI. This particular term was updated in 2025 and it's incorporated into and forms part of your agreement. Now, I don't know what the agreement says, but one thing that a privacy lawyer will do is review all of the applicable terms that a customer is signing up to. So I would also personally review the agreement. And if the agreement has a data processing agreement, I would take a look at that too, because that would probably influence how artificial intelligence is rolled out. So let's talk about this word process. And you can see it's capitalized, right? We've got to capitalize. Why? Because process means something. Process means any operation or set of operations on personal data. Now, let me scroll down and see, look, we've got reference to the data processing agreement. Now, this review is not on the data processing agreement, and maybe I will try and see if we can start doing reviews on that because I haven't done in the past. I like to look at the notices. but we can look at the data processing agreement too. This is a very important word. I wanted to scroll down to see if there's definitions of what constitute processing. My presumption is that it exists in the agreement. We're not reviewing this as one document when we're customers. I'm not a customer, so the only thing that I see is the artificial intelligence features. I don't see the agreement, but the agreement is probably going to look at the definition of what things constitute, and the customer needs to look at how does this affect how we're doing privacy within our organization now. Introducing a third party, how does this impact us? And what sorts of checklists should we have when it comes to a third party processing our personal data? What should we have in place based on our responsibilities in the geos where we provide our products and services and or process personal data? Okay. So let's talk a bit more about AI. Use of any AI-enabled features is strictly optional. I like this a lot, and I think this is really valuable. If I find a certain provision, I'll call it out the next time I see it. Sometimes these AI features are rolled out automatically, meaning that a customer doesn't necessarily have choice when it comes to using the features. I think it's very valuable that this organization allows it to be optional. You can choose whether to use it or not. Now, let me tell you the value I think from a customer-facing perspective. The value of allowing it to be optional is, let's say you have very strict privacy practices. There is a very strict way in which your organization processes personal data. If using or engaging with these artificial intelligence features impact your own privacy practice, then you don't have to opt in. Now, every organization is different. Every industry is different. I don't know every industry that TrustArc provides its services. The only service I'm personally familiar with is the Consent Management Preference Center, and I'm sure that there's different features associated with how that product is rolled out. But it's really valuable for a customer to know that you don't have to allow the AI features, and they are strictly optional. And TrustArc is not going to process or transmit any of your customer data unless you use or interact with the feature. So that's really valuable to note too. And I think it's really important let's talk on the supplier side. Suppliers should really start thinking about whether or not they have the capability to allow the AI feature to be optional or not, because maybe some customers may not feel comfortable with rolling out certain features. So I would hope and anticipate that organizations or suppliers are providing technical specification outside of the terms, because they're different. The terms tell you how you can use the AI. The technical specification tells you all of the background details on what the AI provides. The AI does this, the AI does that. The terms of use dictate how you can use it and what type of responsibilities the supplier is going to have as and when you use the AI features. It doesn't give you details on what the algorithm does. It doesn't give you details on how the algorithm ingests information, how it's trained the data. That's all the technical specification document. And that's generally distributed under an NDA. Sometimes it depends the tool, but I really hope you enjoyed this review. I like talking about artificial intelligence and its relationship with privacy. And I'm pretty sure in every single AI review that I've done, we've talked about the relationship between the terms of use associated with AI and then the other components of an agreement, because agreements have become more sophisticated in 2026. We don't just distribute master service agreements because there's so many technologies at play when it comes to certain products offered by an organization. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Leave a comment if you have questions about what I've stated, and I'll see you in another review.